Happy Easter! I don't know about you guys, but I think Hong Kong Easter is very, very different. I think Easter for us in the Philippines is a lot crazier, and there's so many other things. But anyways, before we go into the sermon, let's go into word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, God, what a joy, what a privilege, Lord, to be here, God. Thank you, Lord, so much for our new friends, our old friends, Father, just being able to be here to worship you together, Lord, as we understand, and of course, as we see, Lord, your sacrifice and what that means for all of us, God. Thank you so much for those that have sweat and have carried so much burden, Father, to bring us the incredible food in the back, God, and I'm thankful, Father, for the festivities we'll be having afterwards as well. Allow us to be focused on you first, Father, and of course, to understand your sacrifice. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So let me ask you, what is Easter to you? For those that are knowledgeable of their geography, there's an Easter island. You probably never know anything about it. It's not really related to Easter at all. For some of us, it's a time of celebration. For the workers and the students, it's 5-day holiday. For the students, it's been holiday ever since school started anyways. For some people, I think it's a time to be extra holy. In the Philippines, we're very Catholic, or at least very religious, and so we would have an entire week off. And so many people would, go off and go to these retreats, pray from morning till night, and be spiritual. For some people, it's Easter egg hunts. Thank you, Finn, for being the bunny this year. For some, it's coloring eggs, boiling them, and eating them, and all these different things. For some, it's, a start of the summer, but all these different things. But for you, what does it mean? When you go back to the Bible, we see the reason of why we celebrate Easter. And it's always been in front of the cross. It's been about the passion that Jesus has gone through going to the cross. And my question for you is, what does the cross mean to you? I think I'm now flipping the table. Okay, sure, Abhishek and Lan did their communion. This entire sermon is a communion for you. What does the cross mean to you? The cross had different meanings to everybody. When the first century happened, the disciples saw Jesus on the cross. It invoked fear, suffering, shame, some embarrassment, even to the point of death. It changed lives, it ended some. So how will you react? As you become a Christian, or when you are a Christian, you will understand that, simply loving God now means not only the good emotions, but now all the bad. As you approach the cross and you see what it really takes to suffer for Christ. The title of my lesson, At a Loss for the Cross. Point number 1, we will go through, Jesus, the entire passion, or at least some bits of it, just to see exactly what it means. So point number 1, aboard just for the rewards. Luke 22, verse 1-6. Now the festival of unleavened bread, called the Passover, was approaching, and the chief priests and the teachers of the law were looking for some way to get rid of Jesus, for they were afraid of the people. Then Satan entered Judas, called Iscariot, one of the 12, and Judas went to the chief priests and the officers of the temple guard and discussed with them how he might betray Jesus. They were delighted and agreed to give him money. He consented and watched for an opportunity to hand Jesus over to them when no crowd was present. Judas came to change. Judas followed Jesus expecting to change. Judas saw Jesus as, wow, this man is doing miracles. This man was preaching wisdom. Okay, I want to follow him. But the change that he expected wasn't what he wanted. Jesus taught increasingly harder lessons, as many of Jesus' disciples followed him for food, fish, and different miracles. Jesus then started to preach the harder lessons. Over time, it stopped being about desiring to change, but now it's more of, what can I get out of it? Do you find yourself on the same boat? Let me ask you, what led you here? I think, looking at myself, I was met at Poly, literally 501 kilometer away from here, literally. And someone invited me and said, Bible discussion. And I'm like, Bible? My parents love Bible. I guess I'll go. And we came to the discussion and we're like, finally, a Filipino in Hong Kong. Finally, someone I can relate with. And then that's when I started coming. But for some people, well, maybe you wanted to try the food. So first things first, I'm really encouraged by all the sisters. I think the potluck has been, we recently started a potluck, and I'm now seeing a lot of skills in the disciples, in the brothers.
Come on, Denzel. Come on, broccoli.
Apparently, which costs $350. Anyways, that's an inside joke. But I remember even before, we were having our Bible discussions in Hong Kong U, and Finn started coming around, and we were running the other day, and Finn goes, one of the few reasons I kept coming back to Bible talk was because of Emma's cooking. And I was like, Flat, does she know this? And I called her, it's like, you need to tell her that immediately. Because from my understanding from her, this is the first time she's ever cooked for that many people. Apart from Sydney. But the kitchen here is smaller. It's her first time leading a Bible talk with me at that time. And she needs to hear that. Come on. But maybe you're here for the maybe you're here for the friends. When you become a Christian, absolutely you will have more friends. Yeah. But the better question is, what is friends to you? And as you get more friends, as a Christian, you're now going, I have so many friends, I now need to find those that can build me in the kingdom up. Yeah. That means cutting some for the sake of purity. It means changing, moving, having friends, and giving some up. Are you here for wisdom? Let's be frank. The Bible is the best-selling book of the world and has stayed in the same place for the last 1,500 years. And so many people read the book and go, whoa, wisdom, smart things, smart things that kings write. Okay, I want to know about it. But it's different to reading it and doing it. Yeah, true. I recently studied the Bible with a friend, and essentially he gave up his own religion. He goes, I want to be Christian. I want to believe in the Bible now. This is amazing. So we did a couple Bible studies with him. Eventually, we led up to this Bible study where it just goes, hey, you must love one another. Yeah. Doesn't matter race, and I'm very grateful. We're all from different nations. I'm so we're all from different nations, from different parts of the world, from different histories. There's no discrimination. There's no racism. But the person I'm studying the Bible, he goes, this is a really hard thing to do. I can't even shake hands with some races.
Dang.
You're in Hong Kong. You can't do that. Yeah. And he claims to be a Christian. So he goes to his own church where it's just essentially nobody talks to each other. It's like, if you claim to want wisdom, wisdom can only change you as much as you follow it. True. So do you still want wisdom? Come on. Some people want to follow Jesus because they want to be a good person. You're good or Jesus is good? Different story. Yeah. What do you expect when you follow Jesus? Judas had these expectations, hopes, and desires when he was following Jesus. Judas probably goes, wow, this man, tall, handsome, leading 500 people, probably really good with money. Okay, I want to follow this guy. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, Matthew 19:21, Jesus goes, well, if you want to be a disciple, let's give up everything. Yes. Yeah. And then Matthew 8:20, Jesus goes, well, foxes have holes, but the Son of Man has no place to sit. Yeah. He goes, what? I can't even live in a hotel? What is going on? Matthew 10:22-24. Well, if you want to be a disciple, you must be persecuted, you will be chased away, you will be hated. Matthew 26:6-13. Now the reality that if you want to follow Jesus, it takes financial, emotional, and physical pain. Yeah. Do you still want to follow Jesus? Come on. And it was then only a matter of time where his heart burst and he goes, I cannot do this anymore. I don't want to follow Jesus anymore. People come to church and people follow Jesus looking for different things. Yet if you stay like this, you will only find yourself leaving. What will Jesus have to call you out of before you stop following him?
Come on.
Victories. Are you faithful or are you a disciple because you desire victories in your life, your career, finances, in your studies, in your academics, and all these things? The moment that you have, an F, that you start doubting God. Are you following Jesus because you desire security? I'm very encouraged, and I want to lift up a couple people. I want to first lift up Alvin and Candace.
Come on.
Of course, Candace, if you have not known this story, she recently changed jobs, and for the last 2-3 months is now looking for a new job. And as of this week,
Yes.
as of next week, we'll start her new work. But it's this concept of, hey, I'm a disciple. Whatever job I have, I will use it to honor God.
Come on.
So whatever times they give me, I need to make sure that these times will help build the kingdom.
Yeah. Come on.
And so it's not, let's see if this job works. I'll take this job and make it fit God. I need to make God first and have this job fit that.
Yeah. Come on.
And so I'm very grateful because when Candace was looking for a job, this was her heart.
Come on.
And so as disciples, it's very easy to land interviews. I wouldn't say it's very easy to get offers. It's one of the hardest things. But to find an offer that suits you is very easy. One that suits the kingdom is a different story.
Yeah, come on.
And so Candace was like, okay, should I get this job? Her prayer was, God, give me a job that would help me go and make disciples.
Let's go. Come on.
And so now she has 2 offers. Wow. One that would dismiss her later, one that would dismiss her at 5:30. For a job to have dismissal at 5:30 is rare. But she prayed and she goes, Lord, I offer this to you. If you want me to go and meet people, impact their lives, and share the gospel, let me please get the 5:30 one.
Yeah.
So I can share my faith, so I can meet people, so I'm not tired after work, so I can give my heart more.
Come on.
And well, praise God, Candace got the latter one, the one that leaves at 5:30. But that's the heart. Living as a disciple, yeah, sure, security is everywhere. But your security is in God and what He wants you to do first. He will figure it out later. The search for anything but God will leave you empty at the end of the day.
Come on.
Matthew 27, verse 1-5. Early in the morning, all the chief priests and the elders of the people made their plans how to have Jesus executed. So they bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate, the governor. When Judas, who had betrayed him, saw that Jesus was condemned, he was seized with remorse and returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders. I've sinned, he said, for I have betrayed innocent blood. What is that to us? They replied, that's your responsibility. So Judas threw the money into the temple and left. Then he went away and hanged himself. Judas, even though he did receive the money, even though Judas did receive what he asked for, it was still not enough. When you follow Jesus, Jesus is the only thing that will fulfill you. Nothing else. As you become a disciple, as you become a Christian, sure, your life becomes better. But it's not about that. You can try to find your own happiness at your own expense, at different things, but it will still leave you empty. Because God has given you a heart with a hole inside.
Right, come on.
And that hole can only be filled with God.
Come on.
You can stuff money inside. It won't work. Stuff a couple kids, maybe. Stuff a spouse. Do whatever you want. Still a little bit.
Yeah.
One thing I've learned as a Chinese. I'll see if people doubt me on that. So for those that don't know, I'm Filipino Chinese.
Yes.
One thing I've learned as a Chinese is I suck at dealing with emotions. And I'm not sure if the other Chinese can relate. And people go, oh, how do you feel? Okay. And we're visibly sad. And we're just quiet half the time. Why is that? Well, I grew up in a very Chinese household. My family is a quiet one, as usual. And so I'm like, oh, the man is meant to be quiet. Okay, cool. Let me gain that heart. This is from me and my house, right? And so I really suck at understanding emotions. And I'm very grateful for Leo. Leo gave me this book. It's called Runaway Emotions. And I do encourage everybody to read it because emotions are here for you to understand.
Yeah.
They're not a torture device. You go, oh, I feel like this, I feel like this. You're not supposed to stuff it in and go, oh yeah, I feel happy, I think. Bad emotions are meant for you to understand what your heart is really going through.
Yeah. Come on.
You find yourself anxious, afraid, and scared of the future. What that means is God's sense of security in you is being taken away. Because everyone wants security.
Yeah.
It's just for us, we worry and we become anxious. That's our coping mechanism. You feel tired, exhausted, bored, frustrated at colleagues, frustrated at family, friends, and work, is because your understanding of purpose for your own life is being taken away. Your work is not going well and you feel frustrated, you lash out at other people because you simply don't know where you're going and don't know what you want.
Right.
Being from the Philippines, I gained a people-pleasing nature. Our desire to say yes to everybody is out of loneliness. I'm afraid of telling people what I genuinely feel because they might not like it.
Come on, bro.
In the Philippines, if you eat alone, that's a very bad omen. Here in Hong Kong, it's normal. But all of it is pointing to a human desire. A desire for security, companionship, and purpose. That's found in God. And the longer you take to find that, the harder your life will be. You know, Jesus became an opportunity for gain, as many realized they can get something out of it. Matthew 26, 57 to 66.
Come on.
Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the teachers of the law and the elders had assembled. But Peter followed him at a distance. Right up to the courtyard of the high priest, he entered and sat down with the guards to see the outcome. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus, so that they could put him to death. But they did not find any, though many false witnesses came forward. Finally, two came forward and declared, "This fellow said, I am able to destroy this temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days." Then the high priest stood up and said to Jesus, "Are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you?" But Jesus remained silent. The high priest said to him, "I charge you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." "They've said so." Jesus replied, "But I say to all of you, from now on you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look now, you have heard the blasphemy. What do you think? He is worthy of death." They answered. You know, many of the people that Jesus interacted with had this intention, that they want something from Jesus. To Judas, the 30 pieces. Maybe to the Pharisees that were accusing Jesus, the Pharisees was like, maybe I can get a promotion. If I kill Jesus, yeah, the elder priest will like me. You know, the crowd, they wanted satisfaction. The crowd that abused Jesus in this trial were the same, some of them were the same people that saw Jesus do miracles, heal people. And yet because of the hard-line nature of Jesus' message, that they wanted justice for their hurt feelings. You know, what are you willing to gain? Or are you ready to take a loss for God?
Yeah. Come on.
The only thing that I can guarantee following Jesus is pain. And for many people, they don't know that. You know, many people watch the YouTube shorts, the reels, and they go, oh, being Christian is like this. You get a car, you get a Ferrari, you get all these different things. I'm not sure which YouTuber does that. But a lot of people can have this good rep of, if you become a Christian and you have God by your side, you can get anything you want. And you know, personally, if you guys don't know, I was able to celebrate my 8th years as a disciple 2 days ago. Yesterday. And I have to be honest. This is the hardest year being a Christian.
Come on, bro.
I'm very grateful first and foremost for the disciples who strive to celebrate my birthday Because for the longest time, I never really wanted to celebrate. I'm like, oh yeah, it's me between God. I'll have a cake with him, and chill. I'll pray for some bits. But I think these last 8 years, I've seen myself move. I've seen most of the friends that I know leave God. And personally, I think as a Filipino, I think one thing that I really realized is I'm very afraid of loneliness. And being the ministry that has been ever more a reality. As you feel like, as you preach, as you call the standard, as you study the Bible with people, as you hear God's message and instill that in other people, people don't want that. To the point that, loneliness on the campus, loneliness sometimes in the house, as I go through things that, and I don't tell people these things. So I suffer feeling like nobody understands me. Within my house, within the campus, within the ministry, within the staff, and within the country. That I felt that nobody could understand me. And amen, I'm still working on it. But that's the expectation of being a Christian. Many people gloss through the Bible and they look at the New Testament and go, wow, Jesus was able to produce food, water, drink, wine, everything. But they forget the last 3 chapters, which was the defining part of the gospel. Point number 2, bear before the cross. Matthew 26, 67 to 68. Then they spit in his face and struck him with their fists. Others slapped him and said, prophesy to us, Messiah, who hit you? We keep going. Matthew 27, 27 to 31. Then the governor's soldiers took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole company of soldiers around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on his head. They put a staff in his right hand, then he knelt in front of him and mocked him. Hail, King of the Jews, they said. They spit on him and took the staff and struck him on the head again and again. After they had mocked him, they took off the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. If you guys watched The Passion of the Christ, or The Passion, it's called, I do recommend you guys to watch it. I think it's on Netflix. I think for this week, or at least for this month, I do recommend you watching it. And don't wince when you see blood, for those that can take it. Because that's the real picture. And in the Bible, it says that Jesus was marred beyond human understanding. That Jesus was tortured even to the point that you're not even sure if he was a human being. The painful thing about the Passion was yes, of course, the torture, the physical torture. But as you see that nobody wanted to help him. The people that were looking and watching him suffer were the very people that said that they would follow Jesus to the bitter end. Bystanders, nobodies, Jesus' family, Jesus' disciples, and even those who claimed to worship God. Many who received and witnessed Jesus' miracles, the healings and everything, were not there. Were not present and did not want to make a statement. To many of us, sometimes we think Easter that way. As much as, of course, I just for the fun of Easter service, we play with the bunny and all these things, just for the fun of it. But while the secular world is having fun painting Easter eggs and all these things, they gloss over the fact that 2,000 years, this is roughly the day that this torture was going on. Will you treat Easter as just another simple day? Or as it should be, a life-changing point of the whole time of humanity? And even if you are not a Christian, this is still on you. As you see, in the past, when Jesus was being tortured, nobody stood up. In the same way, everyone is now involved. Every spit, every lash, every betrayal, and every pain. Jesus knew who he was suffering for. For the Christians, every pain, every sin that we have done has caused him to suffer. Pornography, every scene, every second. Every bitterness you have held on to, every friendship, every family that you refuse to talk to, avoid, and unwillingly forgive, is another nail on Jesus' Every hurtful word, every statement, every argument is someone else's cause for divorce and pain. You need to come to a conclusion that you too have hurt God. Why is Christianity so different? Most of every other religion says that everybody is good, but they turn bad. Christianity just goes up. Everyone's just bad.
Yep.
Flat. That's it.
Yep.
Very easy. Let's make it really simple.
Come on.
Though you don't realize it, maybe you were minding your own business, yet you know that you pulled into a deeper love story. I think the cross also shows this idea. Sure, we've all sinned, but in front of Jesus, you have now no excuse not to love.
Yeah.
You now have no excuse not to forgive your parents who abused you. You now have no excuse to forgive your boss. You have no excuses anymore not to love. Because Jesus did. I do want to lift up, of course, the shepherds and Josh, who is not here. I want to lift them up because I think if you guys understand the sacrifices that they have made in the Philippines to come over to give and support, not only the church, but the entire kingdom. This entire Easter service was pretty much organized by Josh, and I'm very, very grateful. I'm very grateful for it because I think if you guys know me, I do everything too much. I'm very micromanaging, and that's my fault. But I'm very grateful because Josh just goes, no, let me do it. No, let me do it. Even the chocolates, that's her doing. She lugged up everything, and pretty much everything that we will do after the service is her. But there's this sense of, let me go and do it as much as I can. No more excuses. I want to give my heart to everybody.
Come on, Josh.
Jesus not only exposed the selfishness of man from his death, but exposed the failure of man to be righteous on their own. You can never earn it. Many of the Roman people thought, I can earn righteousness. I can earn honor. And God, you can't earn it.
Right, come on.
You're not born with righteousness. That's what the Jews believe. You can't be born righteous. Because you will sin eventually. Even the disciples that Jesus had, you can train them, but they are still sinners. Because they are not even here. Mark 15:21. A certain man from Cyrene, Simon, the father of Alexander and Rufus, was passing by on his way from the country, and they forced him to carry the cross. Simon saw Jesus carry the cross, and of course Jesus stumbled, and Simon was then the one to pick up the cross and go up the hill. Maybe for Simon it was a holiday, just like for us. Maybe Finn was like, I'll go to Thailand. I'm gonna go enjoy. And then all of a sudden you're now wrapped up into this big civil war. I didn't expect this.
What happened?
How am I? I'm now going to waste my entire day lugging a big, at that time it was probably 45, 50 or more kgs of wood. I'm now going to carry this prisoner's wooden stick up the hill. Now I'm going to get a massage. What the heck? Why am I doing this? But then this is the one thing that really changed his life. Because even in Romans 16:13, it reads, "Greet Rufus, chosen in the Lord, and his mother, who has been a mother to me too." We see later on that this Rufus, or at least Simon, then became a Christian later on. So this one holiday, this unintended workout, was the one thing that introduced Jesus to this random holiday goer.
Wow.
And you have to understand that when you know or when you are in touch with Jesus, every relationship in your life is not by chance. As a Christian, do you realize that every single relationship, friendship that you have is a call from God to help them? As a non-Christian, if you have a Christian friend who acts Christian, who acts like Jesus, that is a call from God going, hey, I want you to know me through him or her. I'm very grateful. I think right now we're studying the Bible with Nathan, which is Alvin's friend.
Come on.
Alvin was also met by Evelyn. So this architectural office, this building,
Yes.
has technically reached out to a lot of people.
Yeah, come on.
Even another friend, another chindo that the girls are studying about it, Selena,
Come on.
saw one of our Christians in Sydney's story that moved her to study the Bible. And this same sister is now reaching out to more people here in Hong Kong through her. So God is using Instagram to save souls.
Yeah.
And so that is the hope. Do you understand that Jesus is calling you? And point number 3, just to wrap things up.
Come on.
Embrace the disgrace and just take the grace.
Yeah.
Luke 23:39-43. One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us. But the other criminal rebuked him. Don't you fear God? He said, since you are under the same sentence. We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong. Then he said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus answered him, truly I tell you today.
Come on, bro.
Come on.
Truly I tell you today, you will be with me in paradise. Unlike anybody else during the cross, the thief responded with it. Everybody else was standing. Everybody else were holding something in their lives. The priests that were standing in front of the cross were holding their titles, their lands, their money. I'm righteous. In front of Jesus' torn body. The bystanders probably were holding on to their dignity. Oh wow, I'm so happy I'm not like this guy. I have a good life, I have a wife, I have kids, thank God. The other soldiers with their weapons, their shields, their armors. The other thief on Jesus' left held on to his pride, even though they had the same sentence. But only the thief on the right knew he had nothing to boast for. Let me ask you today, what are you still holding on to in front of Jesus' body? In front of the cross? Are you still holding on to your wounds? With sleepless nights, with cuts, bruises, pains, your business ideas? Are you holding on to your degree? Are you holding on to your CV? Are you holding on to all these things in front of Jesus and go, hey, I'm good? The thief had nothing, and even he had no future, but continued to rely on God. Just to wrap things up, as Easter comes to a close tomorrow, technically, as tomorrow is technically another holiday where the Chinese go and worship their own ancestors, which is quite, sad. Oh, today, I'm sorry. Well, today is Easter, Jesus is more important. As we worship Jesus today, I want to paint you a picture to remember what Easter needs to mean for you now. Imagine your life is on an auction. Imagine on this little board are little post-it notes of your life. Okay, Abhishek's here. Born in India, degree this, master's degree, sin A, sin B, sin C, and then a longer list after that.
Died in China.
We will see. Another post-it note, Lan. Another post-it note, Finn. And at the bottom, an evaluation. How many thousands of dollars? Maybe your work. I don't know. And it's all a bidding auction. So, hey, imagine I'm the auctioneer. Hey, who wants to buy plot A? Anybody? One person go, $1. Fin for $1. Anybody want fin for $1? Jesus goes up, $2. Satan goes $3. Jesus goes $4. It keeps going. Satan eventually gives up and goes, Fin's not worth more than $1,000 anyway.
This is too much.
But then Jesus goes, $1,001, $1,002. There's no competition. Jesus just keeps increasing the price. And God did that for all of us. And God has not stopped increasing that price as he put Jesus, his son, on the cross. If you realize just how much you are worth in front of God, how much more are you willing to give your life to him? Just to conclude, I just want to wrap up. We stand before the cross never as a bystander. We stand before him, mocking him, crucifying him at the same time, betraying him, or simply standing away. Choose therefore not to regret that, but to draw closer to him. Romans 6 verse 9 to 10. For we know that since Christ was raised from the dead, he cannot die again. Death no longer has mastery over him. The death he died to sin once and for all. But the life he lives to God. My challenge for everybody, let this Easter not be another holiday where you can go and have fun or sleep in. But let it be the start to the relationship of God that you will hold forever. And with that, to God be the glory.